All's fair in love and war.
Oh, you know
And
what? I
fantasy
guess I
football.
should get that Chubb jersey. I bought it. I might as well wear it. I'll be right back.
Should I put on my
Think I should
Adrian?
do it, dude. Think I
I
should go get
mean,
that. Oh, actually, I brought it downstairs. It's right in the other room.
all right. Well, should I put on my Adrian Peterson jersey? I don't know. And welcome back. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience. Together, we are on a mission of Dynasty domination. One daydream at a time. I'm here with the gurus. Daniel Darther drinking the Yingling once again. And Captain Christian G Love. We're
Woo!
out here. Last Sunday, we did receivers. This Sunday, we're doing some running backs. As you can tell by the jerseys, I
Woo!
have the
Represent.
throwback. It's the only one I got. So, to explain this episode, I'm going to kick it on over to the gurus and let Christian take the mic.
Yeah. So, just like last week, we're gonna do a quick kind of like build profile thing over some running backs, go over some stats for you guys, and that's gonna be really fun. Then we're gonna hit some running back profiles for the 2023 draft class. So this is going to be pretty exciting. It's no secret that I love the running back position. Always have, probably always will. So getting into our running back builds, I just want to throw out a number real quick, and I'll kind of hit that number again later. But since 2012, there have been 114 total players make the top 24 in fantasy for the running back position. So we're going to get into that because I broke it down by weight class. So we're going to do the first weight class is called our flyweight class. This is anybody under 200 pounds. None of them showed up in the top 24 this year. And in fact, none of them have showed up since 2020. So it's not a very lucrative class. It used to be carried by Austin Eckler, but he very famously has put on a few pounds and gotten a bit bulkier. So he's no longer in there. He's above 200. And since 2012, there have only been 12 runners that have been sub 200 pounds to make the top 24. That accounts for 11%. And of those 12 runners, they only accounted for 20 appearances, which only accounts for 7% of the total amount of appearances. So sub 200, I say it every year, it's not a class you really want to be messing around with. Obviously, there are exceptions to every rule, but you kind of want to stay out of there if you can. Next up, we'll hit the cruiserweights. This is between 200 and 209. 5 guys that made it this season. All of them names you're pretty familiar with. You got your classics, Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, Aaron Jones. And then both Devin Singletary and Jarrett McKinnon made it for their second time this year. So those are those guys. Since 2012, that's 19 guys, totally accounting for 17% of the amount of guys. So it's a much larger number, or not a much larger, but a larger number than the flyweights. Still not a very big number, but they jump up in appearances as well. So 19 guys appearing 45 times, that accounts for 17% of the total appearances. Here's where we get into the real big grinders, and this is the weight class you really want to stick in. This is our middleweight. 210 pounds to 219 pounds. I've nicknamed this weight class the workhorse weight class because this is where you're going to get consistent performers and a lot of them. And we had a pretty good showing from him again this year. 8 out of the top 24 were in this weight class. That includes Alvin Kamara making it back after falling off for the first time since 2021. Represent over there by Dan. Other returning faces, we got Dalvin Cook, Miles Sanders, and DeAndre Swift. Even with his injuries, he still made it on the tail end of the 24 there. We had 4 first-timers in this weight class this year. Tony Pollard, Travis Etienne, Kenneth Walker
Wow, we both
III,
changed. That's
and
awesome.
a guy that I think we're all going to be happy made it. Jamal Williams is also in that weight class. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. But yeah, no, he deserves it. He's been a hell of a player for a while. I'm glad he's getting some pop. So The reason I call them the workhorse class is because they show up more than any other weight class in the top 24. 36 running backs since 2012 have been in this weight class. That accounts for 32% of the total. And they, even more so, they appear consistently because they account for 32% of the total, but they've also appeared 91 times. So they account for 34% of total appearances. So if you're on the fence and a guy is in this weight range and the guy you're on the fence with isn't in that weight range, odds are I would lean this weight range, the 210 to 219. And now, next one, 220 to 229. This is like a superstar category, kind of competes with middleweight, but they don't have it as much. 5 guys here from this year: Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery, Ezekiel Elliott, Nick Chubb, and Joe Mixon. I did have an interesting stat for this weight class because only 7 guys since I started tracking this have made the top 24 every year of their career, and that's including Kenneth Walker. So only 7 have done it. 4 of those 7 are in this weight class, which I just thought was interesting. So you lose volume, but you get a lot more consistency in the 220 to 229. They've had 27 guys hit on the top 24, and that accounts for 24% of the total. And that is 62 appearances for them, which is 23% of the total. Next 2 really quick, we got our heavyweights. This is 230 to 239. Decent turnout this year. So Quan Barkley showed back up after a 2-year slump. That's awesome. James Conner is sticking around in there. And Najee Harris salvages his season after a rough start. We did have a first-timer, Ramondre Stevenson, AJ's boy. He made it for the first time. Awesome year for him. 14 guys in the 30s range. That accounts for 12%. And they've had 29 appearances, which is only 11%. So you see, as soon as we start getting too heavy and as soon as we start getting too light, you start losing these guys. So you want to hang in the middle there. And one more weight class, we got our Giants. It's pretty much the same 2 guys as it's been the last few years. Derrick Henry and Leonard Fournette made it again. Only 6 people since 2012 have been in this class. That's only 5%. So they're even worse than the sub 200 guys. And 14 total appearances. So 5% as well on total appearances. So that's kind of how you break it down. I know Dan went into heights, which doesn't seem to matter as much for running backs. You occasionally get like a guy that's a little taller than normal, but really it's these weight classes. And the data from 2012, you really want to try to stick between 210 and 229. That's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. So speaking on that, Dan, I want to kick it to you, and I want to go who, if it's not obvious for the video for those watching at home, who is your favorite running back in the NFL and what makes them stand out?
Oh, my favorite running back.
Or just whoever you want to talk about, I guess.
Yeah, no. I do want to talk about my favorite running back, Alvin Kamara, man. Rocking the jersey, AK-41. Don't try any passwords with that in it because you might get it right. No big deal. But no, I've always liked Alvin. He's he's a middleweight, and it's kind of funny. We're talking about scouting and whatnot, and it's weird to go through Kamara. He started out at Alabama and ended up at JUCO and finished at Tennessee, and so he's all over the place. So he's kind of a different dude, but the things that make him spectacular is, I think it's because he's a patient runner. He waits for blocks to develop, but then he makes really quick decisions. And once he makes a quick decision, he starts driving his feet. And this is like a running back, you're going to think this sounds crazy, but I think the success is his feet. I think he drives his feet, he keeps moving, and he picks angles that create a situation where the defenders don't have the proximity to square up on him, and he moves quick enough and drives his feet enough to where he's going to break every arm tackle. So he has his success is like narrow misses. He's not like the most squirrely guy, but he just picks elusive, almost like he understands pursuit angles enough to keep you at arm length. And if he keeps driving, you're not going to be able to take him down with that one arm. So that's kind of his whole thing, man, is just being just keeping the feet going and making quick decisions and having elite vision and trusting himself. And that's, I mean, there's nothing like tangible. You're not going to like see that on paper, but if you watch him, that's what makes him stand apart. And I know a lot of people think of Alvin Kamara, they think the receiving work, and I'm not going to lie, he's never had a 1,000-yard rushing season, right? So the receiving work is really supporting his fantasy success, but that doesn't mean he's not elite on the ground. If you look at his touchdown numbers, did you know that he has 76 career touchdowns? Now you all know 52 of those are on the ground. Only 23 are receiving, and he has a 106-yard return touchdown. But of those 52 rushing touchdowns, 32 of them came from inside the 5-yard line, which to me is really shocking because you think of the guy as being like quick and elusive, but it's just he's powerful and he drives his feet and he can score, at the goal line. So anyway, I don't know. I really like Alvin Kamara. I like a lot of things about him, but I was looking for something like just the foundation of his game. And I came up with just the decision-making, the vision, and driving the feet. He doesn't stop, make guys miss. He just drives right through. So that's what's up.
He's always been incredible to me for his balance and his ability. He like absorbs impact, but I don't know. It like doesn't make sense. It's like he absorbs it and it doesn't do anything to him.
It doesn't slow him down
at all.
That's the thing. Yeah,
it makes
the balance.
It's so great. He's incredible to watch. So much fun. So yeah, I'll get into mine. I'll do it real quick. If it's not obvious, rocking the Nick Chubb jersey. Love Nick Chubb. He's been one of my favorites since he came in, and he's my favorite runner right now. Him and Aaron Jones obviously has a little bit of bias there, but what the key things that I look for in a runner, and obviously everybody has their own skill set, but it's vision, just like Dan said, and burst, which Chubb has those in spades. As soon as Nick Chubb gets the ball, it's like he knows exactly where he's going to go with it, and he makes one cut to get there, and then he gets there and he fires through the hole like a cannon. It's every time. It's like surgical the way Nick Chubb runs. He just like, it's like butter. He just smoothly goes through everybody because for Chubb, to me, it's his intelligence at the position. He understands how it works. He knows where he needs to go. Kind of like you. He knows what angles he needs to take. He knows which holes are going to be open. He knows where his blockers are going to be. And to me, Nick Chubb murders you with that preparation and that actual understanding of the running back position. And then the athletic talent is just what buries you. Because as soon as he gets to that hole that he already knows is going to be there, he's gone if there's nobody there to hit him because he's so fast at just bursting through these holes. And it's so much fun for me to watch. It's not all the time as explosive as all these other runners. It's not as fun to watch as Saquon Barkley or even Alvin Kamara sometimes, but it's every single time he touches the ball, 4 yards, 6 yards, 3.5 yards. You rarely ever see this guy get tackled behind the line of scrimmage. And it's just because of his understanding, in my opinion. He just is always looking forward and always looking for where the hole is going to be and just knows exactly how to get there. And to me, that's why when I say things like I think he's the best just natural runner in the NFL, it's because of stuff like that. When you watch him, it looks effortless. Like he's just running. And he's running aggressive, but like the way he just destroys defenses is one of my favorite things in the NFL to watch. So sorry, that went a bit longer than I needed it to. I could talk about Nick Chubb all day, but let's get into
infatuation, man.
Yeah, dude. That's why we love football, man. How can you not be romantic about football? Cheers
to that.
So, speaking of running backs and stuff, though, so let's get into the 2022 rookies really quickly. Just kind of recap what they did. As far as weight classes, we had one guy that really popped in flyweight. That was James Cook, 110 touches, 600 yards. Pretty good for a rookie season. We'll see what Buffalo decides to do, if they bring in some competition or if he's just the guy there. We only had one cruiserweight guy, and he didn't really do anything on the field, but he was talked about a lot last year, specifically by me. and that was Pierre Strong. He barely saw the field, but he did when he had the one game where he saw the field, he had decent production. I mean, a lot of it was like a big long touchdown, but he looked okay, but barely saw the field. That's not great. As far as middleweight goes, we had Kenneth Walker and Rashad White. Kenneth Walker was an offensive rookie of the year candidate, so obviously you know how good he looked. Rashad White, I'm a little more worried about, but he got a lot of time and he looked decent, but he had only 3.7 yards per attempt, which isn't horrible, but it's not great. But the other part that I didn't love was 5.8 yards per reception for a guy that's supposed to be like a catching running back guy. And, you know, the numbers are skewed. He didn't start till late, and the Bucs offense was terrible to watch. But let's just see if that's going to be different in 2023. I don't know. Then we got light heavyweight. That's Damian Pierce, Breece Hall, Tyler Algier, and Brian Robinson. Sorry, I forgot his first name. I wanted to say James Robinson for a second. This was where we had, again, this is where we kind of had the superstars, is in that light heavyweight class. So Damian Pierce looked great till he got hurt. Breece Hall was probably going to be the rookie of the year till he got hurt. Tyler Algier, I think, was the surprise of the class. I think he looked incredible, looked a lot faster than we thought coming out of the combine, and he looked great. And then Brian Robinson, 797 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3.9 yards per attempt. It's a little weird. He looked a little slow to me, a little clunky, but like he also got shot at the beginning of the year. So let's give him some slack, see where he comes next year. So that was a quick recap. So I'm going to kick it back to you, Dan. Outside of Breece Hall, who out of the guys, or another guy, if you have somebody else, who out of the rookies from last year do you think has the most year 2 potential?
Okay. Well, I'd say probably Kenneth Walker, right? But
no, that's fair.
but that's the lazy way out. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Rashad White. You hit some of the numbers, man. Like you said, he had 3.7 per carry. It's pretty crappy. Leonard Fournette had 3.5 though. So
yeah.
And yeah, 5.8 yards per catch. That sounds like a crappy number as well. In fact, it was third worst amongst running backs that had 50 targets or more. Yeah. Would you like to know who the other 4 of the bottom 5 were?
Oh, no.
Yeah, Rex Burkhead. Ouch. Okay, Najee Harris, Saquon Barkley, and Ramondre Stevenson. So I'm not too worried about that, all right? Yeah, that was weird when I saw it, and then I was like, you know what? These guys are all right. I still got high hopes for them. I think a lot of that stems from 2 things. The potential for him to be the guy next year, because Leonard Fournette could get cut. It would save the team about $3.5 million, which doesn't sound like a lot, but they're 56 under the cap. They're in the worst situation in the league. So let it be. I know a lot of people are talking about them taking Bijan. I don't see it. If that happens, and of course, Rashad's tanked. But I'm intrigued mostly because he was RB9 the week that Leonard Fournette missed. This is going to be a new offense, and he did not have a fantasy finish below RB25 any game where he got 5 or more targets. So he only had 56 targets, 58 targets, and Leonard Fournette was in the mid-80s, and I look for that to balance out more as this team starts to move towards a future with White and forgetting the past with Fournette. So that's what gives me an intrigue for him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That number definitely, you pointing that out, definitely makes me a lot less worried about that number, the 5.8 yards per reception. So, yeah, hopefully, I mean, you know, hopefully he is the guy there. I traded for him in the league and spent quite a bit on him. So I hope you're right. And that's the goal is that's what we're hoping for with White. I'm actually, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but I'm going to go Tyler Algier. He's in that light heavyweight class, 221. Over 1,000 yards this year, 4 touchdowns, 4.9 yards per carry. That's what I love. The Falcons need a lot of help. They have question marks at QB. They need help at O-line. They need help at receiver, and they need help at the defense. And I know that they have a lot of money, and I know that they have a decent amount of picks. But I don't understand this infatuation necessarily with getting them a running back right now. Like, they need so much help everywhere that, like, Tyler Algier on a bad Falcons team had 1,000 yards and was going almost at 5 yards per clip. Like, I don't understand why you spend a lot to replace him. I think Algier has earned that starting role. I think they do bring in somebody to supplement him, but I think he earned that role at least for now. Because, like, if the Falcons kind of shore up the quarterback position, either Desmond Ridder starts to blossom or they bring in somebody else, and then you add another receiver to go with Drake London, and then we get Kyle Pitts back. Now this offense starts to open up a little more. And now maybe Algier isn't like required to do all this stuff, and maybe he gets into the end zone a little more, because instead of 4 touchdowns, let's say he got 8 or 10. Now it's a hell of a year for a rookie running back. And I'm pretty excited about Algier in his second year. I think he can explode. I think the combine soured me on him a bit, and he just looks way better than those combine numbers. So it's another example of, like, you can't always trust the combine. But
you can always trust RDR, baby.
Yeah, you can.
I had your back on that.
Algier looks great, and I think it would be a misstep for the Falcons to try and replace him already when they need help everywhere else.
Absolutely. Man, but if they try to replace him, are you ready to get into rookies profiles, man?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let me jump in. I'm going to call him Israel Abandakanda, but everyone's calling him Izzy Abandakanda, so it goes both ways. So this is a guy, that's my Collinsworth for you, but he's at a Pitt, and he's been there for a little while. He's coming off of a monster year. In my opinion, he had 21 all-purpose touchdowns and all-purpose yards. He's almost 1,700 at 1431 on the ground. And that's actually, he missed like 2 games and most of another game. So that's pretty incredible. He's tied for most touchdowns for a running back this season. So congratulations, Mr. Abandakanda. And the things I like about this guy are that he's got great vision and he's got good patience as a runner. But the more I look at rookie profiles, the more, like, I started out, I loved everybody. And then it was like a healthy skepticism, like nervous, excited. And now I'm just nervous about everything, Pretty soon I'll be like, you know what, if it's not the top 1 or 2 guys, I'm trading my picks. But this guy, I have a few reservations, and it's obvious things that he needs to improve in his game. The biggest thing is he has incredible burst, but he needs 3 clean steps. If he doesn't get 3 clean steps, then he doesn't hit the hole hard. So that's a big deal to me. But once he's out in open space, he is slick, he is quick, he is insane. And it's really fun. When I was watching the film, I thought I was watching an undersized back. I was like, this guy, he looks kind of small to me. Just the way that he ran, just like really fast, kind of running away, good to the edge. And I find out he is actually a middleweight. He's 5'11", 215. But he's not breaking a lot of tackles at the line of scrimmage. He's not running through contact. He's kind of, if he gets his 3 steps, he can burst through a hole, no problem. But if anyone gets an arm on him before he gets that 3rd step, it's kind of an issue. But that's not to say that he's not impressive. 45% of his 1,400 yards were after contact, and he did force 46 missed tackles. But one thing, this is a thing that I think is really going to make him stand out for people who are paying attention. He had 21 touchdowns, right? 20 on the ground, 1 through the air. And his average yards per touchdown was 22 yards per touchdown. So this guy is a home run hitter, man. Sure, he had like a 76 and an 80-yard TD. But the thing about it is, 9 of the scores came from outside the red zone, right? That's going to bump your number up. But over 75% of those touchdowns also came on runs between the tackles. So he is a good inside runner, but he is extremely fast. He's extremely fast. He only had 12 catches, and that's going to be a knock on him, but he ran 162 routes, and he looked really good and wide open. It was just not really the style of the Pitt quarterback to throw to an open running back. I think that's not as big of a concern as people make it out to be. And I'm pretty excited about this guy. I'm not going to lie. I think he's a sleeper. And one thing you're definitely going to hear about him is his claim to fame, his 322-yard, 6-touchdown game versus Virginia Tech, which broke Tony Dorsett's single game rushing record at Pitt, besting it by 2 yards. And he is also the only Power 5 running back to have a 300-plus yard game and 6 scores since Ricky Williams. So he's got some big flash. I would encourage you, if you just want to spend like a couple minutes on non-football film, watch his interview after that Virginia Tech game, because it is spicy. There's a lot to be like, like he tried to go to school there and they didn't want him, and like all this stuff. And this is like after he comes back from his injury, and it's crazy, man. And it was pretty exciting. So I'm all about him. So yeah, that's Izzy Abandakanda. Cool name.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to check him out. I was not really aware of him. So yeah, sounds exciting. You gotta love home run hitters. All right, I'll get into my first guy here. His name is Roschon Johnson. He had 545 yards last year, 5.8 yards per carry, 6 touchdowns, and 128 receiving yards. And you may be thinking, oh man, that doesn't sound like a lot. Well, if you don't know who this guy is, it's because he's Bijan Robinson's backup. He's going to sit on the bench. But I was talking to Danny the other day, a friend of the podcast, and he really liked him. And so I wanted to do him a favor and give him my opinions live on here. So this is why I wanted to do him. And I can see why he likes him, man. He's a very strong physical runner and a physical blocker. The issue is he's tall, which has some advantages and disadvantages. He's a great blocker, but low man wins in the NFL. So if he can't learn to do that, it's going to be tough. He doesn't have the top end speed because he's a little too tall. He can't really get that like really home run hit speed, but he's got a hell of a stiff arm because of that length that he has on his arm. The other thing about the arm length that helps him out a lot, he has a great catch radius. He's going to be able to help if they use him in the passing game, and that's going to be the question about Roschon this whole time. Is he didn't get used a lot in college? He was a backup, so where is he going to line up in the NFL? What I really like about him though is he is a tall power guy. He's a light heavyweight, 223, like I said, but he's shiftier than he should be. He's got quick feet for how tall he is, and he has these really nice like smooth, quick cuts that give him a lot more space than I would have expected a bigger guy to get. And I think that gives him a different dynamic to the like tall power back game. Because he definitely fits into the power role. He's a little too tall for it, but guys like Brandon Jacobs have pulled that off, so it's not impossible. I think he has potential to shine without Bijan in his way. But for me, the issue with him, he has a huge landing spot asterisk on him, because if he gets drafted just to be essentially Bijan Robinson's backup again or somebody else's backup, then he's already proven that he fits well in that role and provides the team what they need as a secondary guy. So he could just end up falling into that role in the NFL. And that's what I'm worried about. But if he lands somewhere where there's a path to the starting position, I think he could. I don't think he'll ever be like a 3-down workhorse guy, but he could be like a half and half, split it and get the goal line work type of back if he's in the right place.
Heck yeah, man. I'm pretty pumped about this. Another friend of the show, Shimmy.
Okay.
He's a big fan of him as well. Said he's kind of like a big team leader, like locker room guy. That's so awesome. Like the glue. So that's pretty cool. Makes me excited about him. All right, I'm gonna get to my next guy. I'm talking Zach Charbonet. A familiar name if you watch our box score boomers. Pretty pumped. Sad this guy went back for another year. Started at Michigan. He's a light heavyweight and finished his last 2 years at UCLA. He is 6'1", 220. He's coming off a 1,360-yard season where he had 14 touchdowns, all on the ground, a 7-yard per carry average. So that's pretty impressive. He also had 37 receptions for 321 yards, but I'll get into that a little. Big thing about him, I said a 7-yard average. Someone really should tell this guy that they have 3 down to get to the first down 10 yards, because he's just like takes a ball and hits 15-yard plays continuously, extremely explosive. It's really exciting, and he's so watching this film, it's a little strange. He has very good footwork. Like I was talking about Kamara, he drives his feet really well, but also kind of like Kamara, he's a little bit upright. And to watch a big guy with good footwork like run like that, he looks like he's going slow, but he's just actually extremely efficient in the way that he makes his cuts and finds his angles. So he runs away with quite a bit. He's got a lot of broken tackles and a bunch of 15-yard, 10-yard plays. But the thing I really like about him is his pass catching. He snatches the ball. He just like snatches the ball out of the air. That kind of back, you see guys where they're like waiting for it or body catches, kind of cradling, but he just runs and right at the last second just snatches the ball and takes off. And he's like I said, he's got good footwork, but he's not like the most elusive guy, and he's not super athletic, but he wins against contact and he keeps his feet moving, and he knows how to weave and find a good, clean path. So all that makes me pretty pumped about him. It is kind of Pac-12 stuff, so you worry about the competition level going up at the pro level. But I think with his size and his power and his explosiveness and his catching ability and his size, I think he's going to get the opportunity to prove himself. The thing that made me sad, he has 0 receiving touchdowns on his career, even though he has 75 catches and almost 600 yards. So that's a little bit of a sad face. And him and Izzy are both kind of questionable blockers, like shitty blockers. So,
Gotcha. Yeah, Charbonet, he's a dude, man. I like Charbonet a lot, and I think he's going to impress a lot of people. So it's a good look. He'll probably make it pretty far in our tournament, I would imagine, that we're going to do later.
I'm looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, me too. Another guy I hope makes it pretty far, because guys, I think I'm starting to develop a little. I got a little crush going on for Kendre Miller out of TCU, 6 foot 220 light heavyweight. To be honest with you, I wouldn't be that surprised if he weighs in a little under that. He looks a little undersized for 220, but he could come in over that as well. But even if he comes in a little under, now he's in the middleweight category, so it doesn't even matter. Guys, genuinely huge sleeper potential to me. There's so few things I don't like about his game that I'm actually going to flip it and reverse it, and I'm going to start with the stuff I don't like on him, because I think he just needed more work in the passing game. But again, it was one of those situations where he just needed the work. I don't think he looked bad in the passing game. He looked fine anytime they used him. They just didn't use him enough. And then this is a weird one. I wouldn't say that he avoids contact at all. Like, he's a very strong runner. He gets physical when he needs to, but I just feel like there are times watching him where I feel like lowering his shoulder would have gotten him more yards than trying to dance around and make something explode. And if he could work on that, kind of echoing back to what I talk about with Nick Chubb, like Nick Chubb doesn't always hit a home run, but he always gets 4 yards. At least, you know what I mean? So if Kendre Miller could learn when to lower the shoulder and just pick up the 4 or 5 yards or the 3 yards that the defense is giving him, ooh, man, I think he could really explode. Even with the dancing, though, I don't think it's him being afraid of contact. I think it's him being overly patient, looking for a better hole. Because to me, one of his best skill sets is his patience. He bounces and he kind of like hops along behind the line, and he almost looks like he's walking sometimes. He's going so slow, and then he finds a hole and he just nails through it. And it's super fun to watch. His burst looks great. He goes from 0 to 60 super quick. I'm really excited for the combine results and specifically excited for that player profile or burst score to come out. I think it's going to be good. And I think he has great balance too. Arm tackles don't do shit to this guy. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the patience, and he's got the vision. Again, there's not a lot I don't like about this guy. It's very early on. We don't know where he's going to be drafted, but this guy has shot up my draft boards, and I really think people need to keep an eye on him if they aren't already. Oh, you know what? I didn't even talk about one of my other favorite parts about him. The way he cuts is so interesting. It's like it almost feels like his body's like going at a 45-degree angle sometimes when he cuts. He like cuts and like his like hips and core don't move. It's just like this part of his body, and he like leans into it, and it gets him out of a lot of weird jams. I feel like I don't know, man. I really like this guy's running style. And the other thing, he's 20. He's 20 years old, and like, oh man, this is a guy I'm getting pretty excited for, especially because like he's not at the front of a lot of draft boards yet. So like this might be a guy you could get in the second or like late first or whatever, but I do think he's going to start shooting up draft boards soon.
Heck yeah, man. I'm definitely intrigued by what I've seen from him. But yeah, he's not a sleeper anymore. You're right. Yeah, so we'll come back next week, and you got what? One more
that was
week?
it. I was about to do that, but you were already on it. You were summing up for me, so you got it.
Oh, all good, dude. I think we got one more, 2 more shows, so 1 more week of podcasting before we see what happens at the combine. So
let's go.
I think we're gonna have a little fun next week. Maybe kind of profile what we're looking for out of a couple of guys that might be on iffy prospects. What we're looking for out of the combine, and maybe we'll look back at the past a little bit to see, kind of help learn from our mistakes. You know, there are a couple guys got overlooked that shouldn't have. We gotta clean up our act, boys. We gotta get 100% success.
I agree. Well, right on. Well, we'll see y'all next week. Thank you, as always.
Peace out.
Absolutely.